Hey guys, welcome back to The Stuff of Legend. My name is D'Lo. I've got another video for you guys, and I wanted to go over something really quick, something that I think is going to be really fun, interesting, but it's also going to be very spoiler oriented, so please keep that in mind as we get started with the conversations and ongoing that we're going to talk about Mandalorian. We're going to talk about the Rise of Skywalker, and it will include, I'm sure, questions involving spoilers. I won't be able to stop that as it's going to be live. So if you guys have not seen those things, you may want to either revisit this or just consider whether or not you want these spoilers. So that is something, and I'm sure it's been very hard as of yet to avoid all spoilers since it's been taking the internet by storm, meme-wise and otherwise. So I do think that it is going to be a really, really fun conversation. I can't wait to have with you guys. Let me just go ahead and pop something up before I transition to this new page. So I wanted to show you guys some spoiler talk. Let's go ahead and cut over here. So you guys see me here. I'm back. I'm on the screen. Open spoiler discussion. Proceed with caution. Let's talk. Ask me anything up here on the side. Hit up those comments. I want you guys to flood the comments, but I do have for you guys some questions that were here from the previous live stream I did yesterday. And unfortunately, I had an audio issue where you guys couldn't hear a thing I was saying. So I wrote those down. I've got them here in my email. I'm going to read those off from certain individuals just so that you guys can have that. It'll be on the internet. Whenever you guys ask me a question, whether it's in a comment or whether it's in a live chat, I want to make sure that you guys get your questions answered. Unfortunately, some of these were very spoiler oriented in the stream before, and I did not have a disclaimer up. It was not intended to be a spoiler discussion, but this will be. So we can really get into some of these questions, and I'm just going to go over the questions asked yesterday, but in spoiler detail, all right? So let's go ahead, and if anyone wants to ask me any questions, just put them up in the comments. Just scroll down, type them in, hit me up, and we'll talk about those spoilers right away, okay? So, first things first. Daniel's Hot Topics, which is not me, but a channel called Daniel's Hot Topics, says the following. It says, "Hi, what's up? That season finale was great," referring to Mando season finale episode 8. And yes, it was so good. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have done such an amazing job of writing in excellent lore, world building for Star Wars that has seemed to be kind of lacking a little bit in the recent episodes, because 7, 8, and 9 seem to have been very repetitive, very echoing of the original trilogy, which everyone likes the original trilogy. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just people want new stories. People want new things to happen. And so when you basically just carbon copy the original principles, the original same beats and patterns as the original, and you don't do anything different at all, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating for fans. We want to like it so much, but it feels like it's basically just a nostalgia draw and not really a good story on its own sometimes. Now, I will say I like the Force Awakens, even though it was very echoey of A New Hope. And unfortunately, it didn't pay off very well in The Last Jedi, and that was very frustrating to many people like myself. Others liked it, but most people that I talked to did not feel the same way. In my circle, I know that's anecdotal evidence, so I'm not going to cast that on you or your opinion. Your opinion's very valid. It's valid as much as mine. We're both fans of Star Wars, and that's totally fine. But yeah, I really loved the season finale specifically. Reason I go into those details about the sequel trilogy is because, contrast to that, you take something that is very original. It doesn't draw on characters we already know and love, although Boba Fett is a well-known Mandalorian character. He's not the only Mandalorian character, and that's the point, is that a Mandalorian is not the only one. He's not the last one standing, although in Mando's case, it does seem like the numbers of Mandos have been drawing thinner and thinner. And that's something that's really fun, really fascinating, interesting. The stakes are high, and that's something that you don't really feel in the sequel trilogy, unfortunately. Even though everything is big and it's like doom and gloom is going to be what they say is going to happen, nothing ever happens to Rey that is bad. In fact, her only problem is an identity crisis. Everything else she seems to handle with perfect ease, and that's not interesting. Like Luke got his arm chopped off. Anakin had all of his limbs chopped off. You know, it's like, and it doesn't have to be dismemberment, but you know, there should be some drawbacks. There should be some setbacks. You can't have someone that's literally all powerful be the main character because it's not interesting. Who's going to be that person's mentor? You know what I mean? You have to then take dumps on the people that are supposed to be their mentors, and that's not fun either. Juxtapose that with The Mandalorian, and it's just great Star Wars. It's great writing. Even if it wasn't Star Wars, it's great writing. It's a good show. And that's, I think, one of the things that makes it stand out. And that's one of the reasons why Star Wars is far from dead. I think that the episodic trilogy has suffered a great deal, but Clone Wars, Rebels, the video games, Battlefront's a ton of fun. And I just finished playing Jedi Fallen Order, and it was a fantastic story. Cameron Monaghan did a great job portraying the main character, Cal Kestis. I won't spoil that for you guys if you don't want to, because I didn't include that in the spoiler description warning above. But play that game; it is great. It's a great game, great story, a ton of fun for Star Wars fans. You basically just become a Jedi, and it's everything you've ever wanted as a kid. So I will say that's a great game to play. Get your hands on a copy of that. And so the next thing he says here, Daniel's Hot Topic says, Moff Gideon was cool and the end scene was awesome. Do you watch Star Wars Rebels? And I said, absolutely, yes, it was awesome. Moff Gideon is a great character. And the inclusion of Moff Gideon and an item that was included there, you guys already know about the Dark Saber that he wields to bust himself out of the TIE fighter that Mando takes down, which Moff Gideon was inside of. Moff Gideon is played by Giancarlo Esposito. And let me see if I can get over here to a slightly different screen. I think this one might have a second cam. There we go. And I'll see if I can maybe just get out of the way here. Let me see if I can move myself. Forgive me for the delay. I'm just gonna scoot myself over here. Okay. All right. How's that? So now let me just show you guys the cast of The Mandalorian. So we see here this image right here of Giancarlo Esposito. He is Moff Gideon in The Mandalorian. And let me get my mouse out of there so you guys can see him. You guys probably know him from Breaking Bad. He's been in a bunch of other things, like Godfather of Harlem, Better Call Saul. But holy cow, is he a great actor, and he plays menacing incredibly well, evil even. And I love that about this actor. And he plays Moff Gideon terrifically. Moff Gideon is someone who is an Imperial officer who was supposed to, his role in the Empire was basically law enforcement and kind of like local governmental controls. So he went to Mandalore. What we assume based on what we know from episode 8 and what we know based on what they said in the episode is that he is the person that was probably in charge of running the purge on Mandalore. So after the events of Star Wars Rebels and Sabine defeats Clan Saxon using the Dark Saber, takes control of Mandalore, but there was a power struggle. She didn't technically deserve it because she didn't kill him. She ends up giving the Dark Saber to Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan then leads Mandalore to be reunited, despite the fact there was still factions that were still loyal to the Empire. She tried to reunite them, but I believe after that, very shortly after that, was the Purge, and the Purge was Giancarlo Esposito leading a whole fleet of Imperial officers, ships, and everything to wipe out the people of Mandalore, take all their Beskar, all their weapons, enslave their people, whatever they had to do, they did. And it was called the Purge. We know this from episode 1 and all the way through the Mandalorian series. Very, very interesting character. Very Darth Vader-esque, especially like coming in all black, wearing a black cape. He's got something on his chest. It looks kind of like the electronic pad that Darth Vader has there that kind of helps function the breather and all the Bacta in his suit. All of those things. It looks kind of like a Darth Vader suit. and he comes in like a boss. He strikes down his entire crew just because they were between him and his prize. And then, you know, like you hear in episode 8, the two scout troopers on the bikes, it was Jason Sudeikis playing one of them, and then another one, I forget what the other actor's name is. Let me see if I might even have that here. Let me see if I can find, it'll probably be down this way somewhere. I think they go in order. Yeah, so like Steve Blum was in there. That's cool. I didn't know that. I love Steve Blum. He was a voice actor in Rebels. He played Zebarelios. That's who he played. So Dave Filoni, Rick Fumiyama. I'm getting closer. Here we go. Come on. Jon Favreau again as Paz Vizsla. And I don't see Jason Sudeikis here. Hang on. I saw an article about that. It's not super important. Oh, here it is. Jason Sudeikis. So you see this one flickering and flashing down here on the left? Jason Sudeikis. So that's pretty sweet. He was one of the biker troopers, and he was basically saying to the other bike trooper, hey, you know, are we good to go? Do we have a sit rep? Can you let us know? And the other guy was like, hey, yeah, he just killed one of his officers for interrupting him, so it's going to take a while. Meaning that he doesn't get interrupted. He doesn't take any crap from anyone. Moff Gideon is a savage. You don't get on his bad side. You do what he says. You get out of his way. And that's very Darth Vader. Darth Vader used to kill his own dudes just for being incompetent or not catching a Jedi or doing things that almost nobody else could do. You know, so that's very Darth Vader. And they set him up well. I think a lot of other actors would not have been able to pull off that level of just menacing. But Giancarlo Esposito is the guy for that. He is the king of menacing on screen. He just commands that presence. I love that. So yeah, what a killer finale. Also with the Black Saber. I'm sorry, the Dark Saber. I keep saying Black Saber, but that's a different thing. The Dark Saber was the weapon of the original Mandalorian Jedi. And they hint at the Jedi Mandalorian war that was going on way back when. They talk about that a little bit when they're with the I forget what her name is, the welder or the armorer played by Emily Swallow. And that was something that I thought was really cool, really neat. And I love what they're doing. They're tying everything back to the Clone Wars and to Rebels and the Old Republic. Even bringing up the Dark Saber and bringing up the ancient history of the Jedi and the Mandalorians goes all the way back to the Old Republic. They're canonizing the Old Republic, getting us ready not only for like the Obi-Wan series, getting us ready for more Mandalorian stuff to come, the history of Yoda's people, which I assume is going to be the target goal, whether or not they achieve that in season 2. But that is the goal, that they're either going to try to reunite Baby Yoda with his people, or they are going to induct him into the Mandalorian culture and way, be it that he is Force sensitive and very well likely become a Jedi at some point, maybe the second Mandalorian Jedi of all time. That would be savage. How crazy would that be to see a Mandalorian that's like 2 feet tall and just tearing people apart and can use the Force? That'd be awesome. That'd be so cool. I want to get the Mudhorn sigil on a hat. You know what I mean? I want to get, or a tattoo of the Mudhorn symbol. That'd be so sick. Oh my gosh. I'll get the Mythosaur symbol here and the Mudhorn symbol here. That's what I'll do. It's going to be sweet. I don't have any tattoos, but I would like to get one at some point. That'd be really fun. So, yeah, that's pretty much that one. The next thing here, and keep the comments rolling on the right, because I will, in the live chat, because I will circle back and hit those as well. But you guys had asked some questions that I did not get a chance to answer here yesterday, so I will answer those. And some of these I did do yesterday, so I'm going to go ahead and skip the ones that I already did, but I just wanted to do those. You asked if Daniel's Hot Topics asked if I had seen Star Wars Rebels, and yes, it's one of my favorite TV shows. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender is probably the best animated TV show of all time. Then I believe Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and then Rebels. By a very slim margin, I think they're both amazing. But I really, really like The Clone Wars. Partly because I really like the time frame that it's set in. I really love the prequel era. There's so much history that takes place back then. And the prequels do a lot. Whether you like the prequels or not, they build the lore of Star Wars, and they were not carbon copies of the originals. They weren't just, it wasn't just a pure attempt to reach into your wallets and take from your memories. They actually created stories that built up the original trilogy that could then be expounded upon to tell more stories. That was what the prequels did. The sequel trilogy, it's hard to see around the incredible amount of story cloning that they did. They cloned the original story and just blew it up. And I don't mean like destroyed it. I mean they made it bigger. Not necessarily that that's good or bad, just that that's what it was. Bigger Star Destroyers, bigger Death Stars, bigger, everything is bigger. The threat is bigger. That all of that. So next I'll say this. The next one here, there was a couple that were a little bit more off topic. I did answer, so I'm going to skip ahead on those. Then Daniel's Hot Topic says, I'm going to read a couple of them together because I think they fit together. But you said, hi, I hope Clancy Brown will be back for Mandalorian Season 2. His character was awesome, and The Mandalorian had the hardest time with him. Clancy Brown was Lex Luthor in the 90s, Superman the animated series. And then it says, do you think eventually that the team that Mando left on the Republic ship, maybe they join the Mandalorian and his crew? So those three questions are interconnected because it's referring to Clancy Brown. It's referring to episode 6, which I love. I love Bill Burr as Mayfeld with the shoulder gun. And he's just like, is that why you don't want to take off your helmet? He's like, I bet he's a gun under there. Is that why you don't want to take off your mask? He does that whole making fun of the prequels, making fun of The Last Jedi by calling his ship, saying it looks like a Canto Bight slot machine. It was just great. It was great to have Bill Burr in his element because he's a comedian, and he's a very often cynical comedian, very making fun of stuff and poking at things. And that's exactly what he did. And it was great. I do want to see him again. And we know from seeing that episode that at the very end, it looks like Mando wipes the floor and kills every single one of those members. But then at the end, you find out he didn't kill any of them, except technically the droid. But he basically just beat them up and locked them in a cell together. So they're all alive. They're just arrested. And it's very, very possible we're going to see them again. What are the odds that he doesn't end up running into those guys again? They weren't on the ship that Rick Fumiyama, Dave Filoni, and Deborah Chow blew up, because they blew up that ship where his homeboy was. I forget what his name was, Ran or something. Ran, the fat guy with long hair that was like, we don't ask any questions here or something like that. That guy, he's dead. I mean, they straight up X-winged that starship or whatever it was, that home base in space. That thing's gone. He's dead, probably. Very likely dead. But the crew is not, because they were on a different ship. They were in the detention center for the Republic, which was manned by droids, and the voice actor that plays Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars, Matt Lanter. I don't know if you guys caught that, but that was so cool. Episode 6 is very special for me because they had Clancy Brown in a live action role as the Devaronian named Berg. The devil guy with the horns. He's red. And that's who you're referring to, Clancy Brown, being the one that Mando had the hardest time with. Even his flamethrower would not toast the Devaronian. So that was really cool to see that, in the beginning, Bill Burr's character Mayfeld was like, believe it or not, he's our muscle. And that was the whole thing with him. He's the strongest, he's the toughest, but Mando's still the baddest. And that was one of the coolest things. So I do think we will see them again. It is very, very likely we will see that exact crew again. My guess is because two things. They're not extremely expensive to book to be in the show. And fans love that crew. I mean, almost everybody, whether you did or did not really love the episode, almost everybody really likes the episode. And most of the time, it's because Bill Burr killed it as Mayfeld. The action sequences were just sick. It ends with that kind of horror image of the Mando just going from popping up, disappearing, popping up, disappearing. Bam! and he stops him. And it was just great. It was just a great episode. It was fun. And it was filled with action, and I do believe we will see them again. There's no way that that Jon Favreau doesn't bring back Bill Burr as Mayfeld at least. Whether or not we get the full crew, I do believe we'll see Bill Burr again, and probably the whole crew. That'll be awesome, and I'm looking forward to that episode very, very much. I hope that comes. So then after that, we also have, let me see. Hunter Iggy says... Hunter Iggy asked me if we could please bring back the fan casting, and I will do that. I'm actually creating my setups here on my new new software and new program and my new tools so that I can do just that. I want to prepare so that I can do as many of these things as you guys could possibly handle for fan casting, cast left and right. I love doing fan casting. It's one of my favorite things. So I will do that for you guys, and I definitely am I'm getting ready to finish the final pieces of the Fan Casting Summit 7. I know, guys, it's been probably close now to 5 months, maybe 6 at this point since I started this project, and everyone's been waiting so patiently on me. Life's just gotten really hectic. I've been trying to pin it down so I can get a decent schedule going, but it's been really, really tough. So bear with me on that. I appreciate you guys' patience. Fan Casting Summit is coming soon. And it's almost done. And then I'll blast it out to everybody. So then it says this. Daniel's Hot Topics for the last few questions says, people say Rey is a Mary Sue and that she is too perfect and powerful. But if people did not like her before, they are not going to like her now or in the future, because Rey is and will be more powerful in the future because she destroyed Palpatine, and it is rumored Kylo Ren went into Rey when he disappeared, so she should be a god now. Yeah, so that's pretty much I would say accurate. I mean, if you didn't like Rey before, you're definitely not going to like her now. I mean, for me and my wife, I've always been kind of on the fence, because from The Force Awakens, I wanted to like Rey very much, but I wanted to see what they were going to do with her. I did think, I have a video from a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago. It was at the end of 2017, I think, where I talked about Reys Parents. After we got out of The Force Awakens, after we got out of The Last Jedi, I was like, you know what? People have been speculating whether or not she is a Palpatine, and I do think that there is clear evidence that she is significant. And The Last Jedi never said she was nobody. It said that Kylo Ren saw her worst fear was that she's nobody. It's not that she was nobody, it's that her worst fear was nobody. And you can gather that because she connected with the dark side of the Force in the dark side cavern on Ahch-To. And the dark side is not an omniscient, all-knowing thing. What it does, though, is it connects with your emotions, with your soul, with your spirit. It connects with your fear, and it causes you to fear. And so what the dark side showed her was not the truth. It showed her what her worst fear would be. And that was that she really was a nobody. Her parents are nobody. She comes from nothing. She means nothing. And that this whole time she's been waiting around for literally nobody. And there's no significance to who she is, and it matters nothing. That was her worst fear. And that's when she did the Force Skype with Kylo. You can't hide your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, what you're going through. All of that synchronizes with the other person. And so it made sense to me that Kylo was able to use that against Rey when they finally met in person. He basically said, I know your worst fear. You won't say it, but I will. You're nobody. You're nothing, but not to me. And then he explains, you came from nothing. Your parents were nobody. They sold you for drinking money and stuff like that. All of that was true about her worst fear, but not actually true. Does that make sense? It's not truth. It's just what she feared. And that was what he picked up when he connected with her, because she didn't know the truth. She never knew the truth. The dark side didn't reveal the truth to her. It revealed her worst fear. And it made her confront her worst fear. And that's what Kylo picked up from her. So he wasn't wrong, and he wasn't lying. He wasn't trying to deceive her. He was telling her exactly what her worst fear was. And that was the truth. It just happens to not be a reality. The reality was that she's a Palpatine. and neither of them knew it at that time. So yeah, I had no problem with that. And it doesn't undercut what The Last Jedi did either, because The Last Jedi never said that that was what her parentage was. It was what her worst fear was. So I never had a problem with that. A lot of people were like, oh, well, then it means this, and then it doesn't mean that, and now she's a Skywalker, so is that how you become a Skywalker? It's like, no, I think that's reading too far into it. I think it's just she can't go anywhere for the rest of her life as a Palpatine, because the entire galaxy understands that if you're a Palpatine, you're evil, and they will not have their minds changed. So she clearly has to either just go by Rey, as she always has, which I thought would have been perfectly acceptable, or she could adopt the mantra of Skywalker or Solo. Either of those would have worked. I think choosing Solo might have been fitting because she had kind of a father-daughter connection with Han, and then obviously her connection with Leia, who is a Solo. The reason I think she chose Skywalker, I think, is more for us as fans to connect her with the light, as opposed to connecting her to Solo, because people would assume that automatically validates her apparent love or non-love or whatever for Kylo Ren, who I thought was arguably the best character arc in the entire trilogy. I still don't know exactly how I feel about it one way or another, as far as the trilogy as a whole, and also as just The Rise of Skywalker. Because again, guys, I've only seen The Rise of Skywalker one time, and I feel like this is a movie you cannot only see one time. You probably have to see it twice to take it in. I was listening to a bunch of YouTube channels, even specifically ones I've never heard before, that were really going to town hating on The Rise of Skywalker. I've got no problem if you want to hate on The Rise of Skywalker, honestly, because it is divisive and it is confusing, because there are things that it does that fly in the face of The Last Jedi very clearly. But Rey's parentage was not one of those. Rey's parentage was very clear, at least to me. Apparently not everyone got it, but the dark side operates from fear, and that was what it showed her. It showed her worst fears, which we already knew from The Force Awakens. Right out the gate, we knew that she was waiting for someone that was never going to return. That was the whole thing, was why she didn't want to leave Jakku, a Nowheresville place, because she was waiting for someone that everyone else knew would not return. And then to have it be like she was scratching the days on the wall, in that place she was staying at in the desert, just counting the days. They're going to be back eventually. And if all that was for nothing, that is a horrible thing to confront. That's a horrible thing mentally to try to tackle. So yeah, it sucks. That whole thing just kind of sucks for Rey as a character. But it doesn't fly in the face of The Last Jedi, because The Last Jedi, to me, made it very clear that Kylo was not lying. He was being genuine. He was telling the truth. He connected with Rey and saw what she saw in the dark side cavern, which was not the truth. It was her worst fear. And that's what he was leveraging against her to get her to come and join him. It made sense to me. So I think a lot of people have a lot of issues with The Rise of Skywalker that are 100% valid. But some of those I still think are not that big a deal. And some of them were kind of fun to watch. Like her being a Palpatine, lightning blasting the ship out of the sky, and then like force pulling it, keeping it off the ground. That was one thing I thought was like, holy cow. If you thought Rey was like your comment, you said, people say Rey is a Mary Sue and that she's perfect and too powerful. But if people did not like her before, they are not going to like her now or in the future, because she kills Palpatine, and it's rumored Kylo went into her and now she's got his power too, so blah, blah, blah. The whole way through The Rise of Skywalker, I'm thinking, holy crap, she went full Avatar state. Like, she is all powerful. Like, she's a Jedi with no inhibitions. Anakin Skywalker was more strong with the Force than even Master Yoda. More strong in the Force than even Palpatine, technically speaking. But even, there's only been one time I can think of where I think someone has stopped a ship, maybe twice, with using the Force. I think it was Darth Vader, and it was also Starkiller. Starkiller in the video games did stop a ship from taking off, and I believe he pulled it towards him from upper atmosphere. Like, he just yanked it out of the sky And that there's only been a couple of times someone in the Force has done that, and it has happened. So it's possible. It's completely possible. But it's pretty rare. And they're basically saying that Rey is the GOAT. Like, there's no one better. And it's like, cool, you know, like, I guess, you know, I mean, at this point, like, we saw that happen in The Force Awakens. I'm not against Rey as a character. It's just hard to grab when you don't show it or explain it till the end of the 9th inning. You know what I mean? And so it's really tough. Like, if they had shown her training like they did with Luke, like they do with Anakin, where they have failures, they can't always do what they're trying to do, we could have gotten on board a little sooner. Because people fail. I fail. You fail. We all fail. We all have to learn things by trying, failing, getting up, and doing it again until we get it. Rey doesn't have to do any of that, so it's not relatable. You know, we see Anakin try and fail time and time again at a number of different things, and Obi-Wan's always there, like, mind your feelings, or, whatever, or I hate flying, like tons of things. He's great at certain things, but he's not great at literally everything. And that's the thing, is that you got to make him somewhat relatable. And I think Rey was so unrelatable that nobody could truly connect with her. You can admire it, which I admire The Last Jedi. Or I'm sorry, not The Last Jedi. I admire the Force Awakens for what it set up. But I feel like you have to cut out The Last Jedi to get to The Rise of Skywalker. And that almost makes a more, except for the Kylo Ren stuff, that makes for a more cohesive story. So if you could give me like a director's cut of the trilogy. Actually, no. We'll call it we'll just call it a special edition of the trilogy, where you do The Force Awakens and you show maybe the Rey and Kylo stuff from The Last Jedi. Cut out all the Luke crap, because it was a horrible way to treat Luke in that film. I mean, like, just the way they wrote it was just disgraceful. I really took issue with the way that they made him, like, he cut himself off from the Force. He abandoned it. Someone who spent 4, 5, and 6 never giving up on his father, even though he had slaughtered billions of people. He would never give up on the kernel of hope that his father could have some good left in him. And he himself never turned to the dark side. He was tempted and never went. But then all of a sudden his nephew has a bad dream of going to the dark side. And he's like, oh, we need to kill it with fire. Like that kind of thing. So it doesn't make sense for that character. They should have picked someone else. Pick another character, a different Jedi. Maybe they could never find Luke. And then maybe at the end, they're able to reach out to Luke with the Force and find him somewhere. And maybe he was helping with the Resistance, because that's what Luke does. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. So I have issues with The Last Jedi, as you guys already have figured out. But my issues mostly are not Rey. Although I acknowledge she's not relatable at all. Like, there's nothing relatable about her. Ahsoka Tano is a great female character, because Ahsoka Tano is relatable. She struggles with things. She sees when Anakin is not right. She sees when he is being cocky, overzealous. And you as the viewer are also seeing these things, and you're like, yes, maybe in this instance she's right. In this instance, she's totally wrong. And like, she doesn't always succeed. That's big, because we don't always succeed. That's important. And so, yeah, I mean, you can make God mode characters. Like, for instance, Master Yoda doesn't have a lot of struggle with a ton of things, but you do see him get very, like discouraged, disheartened, weakened by tremors in the Force. And he kind of functions as a more of a mentor character. You can have a mentor character there that is a little bit OP, or very OP. But when your main character is basically on God mode with cheat codes, and you never run out of life, energy, or you seem to have unlimited experience, your max level, and everything just is flying by. Effectively, in gaming terms, it's boring. It's a boring game. And that's kind of what it was. So like I had more interest in the secondary characters than I did in the main character, which should not be the case, I think. Well, I mean, it can be, but you should have a close proximity of interest between your favorite character and the main character, I would assume. So anyway, that's more or less what the questions were for the previous questions. And now I've got more questions coming out here. Let me see if I can do the live chat here. Let me see if I can do the pop out. I want to see if I can find the button to do a pop out chat. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing it right now. That's okay. It's not a big deal. Let me see if I can go ahead and grab all of your questions from the live now. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to the live. I'm going to switch my screen again just so that I can get that spoiler warning up here. You guys hearing me okay? Is everything good on this side? I just want to make sure that we're not having another situation where I'm going to have to make a second video to respond to that video. So let me go ahead and just pull this up. Here we go. Okay. So let's see. All right, so I have this. Moff Gideon. So Daniel's Hot Topic says the following. Moff Gideon had the Dark Saber from Star Wars Rebels, and the last time we saw it, Bo-Katan had it, and she united Mandalore with the Dark Saber. That's correct. I mentioned that towards the beginning of this episode of my show, where the Dark Saber was created by the first ever Mandalorian Jedi during the Old Republic, and then shortly after that, I believe he gave that he put his weapon in the Jedi Temple, and eventually the Mandalorians came for that weapon, and there was a war between the Jedi and the Mandalorians. The Mandalorians, under the leadership of I believe it was one of the Clan Vizsla guys. It might have been as late into the story as the Clone Wars era, but I thought it was before that where they retrieved the Black Saber. If it was, then it definitely was by Pre Vizsla, who was voiced by Jon Favreau, the showrunner of Mandalorian, if you guys didn't know that. But then he was defeated in combat by Darth Maul. Darth Maul took the Dark Saber and was defeated again by Darth Sidious. And Darth Sidious did not take up the Dark Saber, but instead somehow managed to get it back and put it away in the homeworld of Darth Maul, which is Dathomir. Dathomir was the place where the Dark Saber laid to rest until Ezra Bridger went back there, and him and Sabine Wren found it, and Sabine took up the saber, knowing that it was a Mandalorian historical relic. And it was very important to her history and her culture as a person from Mandalore. So from that point, she then took the saber, learned the ways of sword combat from Kanan Jarrus, the former Jedi Padawan who survived Order 66, and who also trained Ezra Bridger. He then takes it and helps her learn that so that she can face the leader of Clan Saxon back on Mandalore to try to help take her Clan Wren out from under the thumb of the Empire. And because Clan Saxon was sympathetic to the Empire, they helped serve as, I believe, ambassadors to the Imperial control of Mandalore. And Clan Wren, although they went along with it, did not want to be under the thumb of the Empire, and so she helped free her people from that. But then she also did not want to lead Mandalore. She didn't feel she deserved it. According to their customs, you have to kill the leader who has the blade to take it from them unless it's given. And it was not given. She took it, but she did not kill the person. So she would not have had respect in the eyes of the Mandalorians. So she gave the blade to Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan united Mandalore under her leadership until the Purge. And that's where Moff Gideon comes in, and he probably very likely killed Bo-Katan to get the Dark Saber, and that's where we leave off in Mandalore. On the Mandalorian show. 5 years after the Empire, which is technically, I'm guessing, somewhere between 15 and 5 years before the Mandalorian show, the Purge happens, which is right after the time frame that Rebels, because Rebels kind of bleeds right into episode 4. Oh, I'm sorry. So my timeline is off. Rebels leads into episodes 4 and then kind of ends with a conclusion that spans the trilogy. So technically you understand that some characters are there for certain main events in the films, which is great to see. I love that. But yeah, the Purge happened sometime during the 4, 5, and 6 era reign, and they wiped out Mandalore. They killed almost everybody. Not everybody, but almost everybody. And I assume Bo-Katan was one that probably tried to stand her ground against Moff Gideon and was eliminated. Killed, captured, tortured, whatever, we don't know. I doubt, though, that she was left alive, because being the leader of Mandalore, they probably wanted to execute her to show strength. And so, yeah, I'm guessing she's dead because her weapon is in the hands of Moff Gideon. And Moff Gideon cuts his way out of that TIE fighter with the black saber. First time we see it in the live action. It looks so good, so cool. Plus, it's in the hands of one of the sickest, most savage, apparent non-Force users we've seen so far. I'm super excited by that. Really cool. Love that finish. That's how Star Wars is done, my friends. Dave Filoni, we've all been saying it since the Clone Wars. Give that man a live action show, even though it's technically Jon Favreau, right? It's Jon Favreau's show. He wrote it, but he co-wrote it with Dave Filoni. They spent weeks, if not months, at Dave Filoni's ranch, just hitting up the writers' room together. It's great. It's awesome. They worked together on the Clone Wars. They worked together a little bit in Rebels, and now they're working together in live action for Mandalorian. It is perfect. It's great. I love it. Can't wait for season 2. Super excited. So let me take the next question here. It says, yeah, and then your next question was basically reiterating what I just said. I didn't read this part, but it says, I bet, from Daniel's Hot Topics, it says, I bet Moff Gideon killed Bo-Katan and pried it from her cold dead hand. Yep. I completely agree. I think that's exactly what happened. I think you're right on the money there. If anyone else has any other thoughts, send them our way, because this is what this discussion is all about. So next we have Daniel's Hot Topics again saying, when the Twi'lek finds out that the Mandalorian was responsible in the death of her brother, she will hate him with a passion and try to kill him. But I bet Bill Burr will save him. You know, that's actually a really good theory. I didn't really think about that. So the Twi'lek will definitely be upset, but I don't know how upset she will be, because it's her brother, but her brother tried to kill her too. So I don't know if maybe she's as sick and sinister as her brother is. She may or may not have that much hatred for him, although she was apparently pretty upset that Mando helped get her brother locked up in the first place. So that is, I think you're probably right there. There will be some bad blood between the Twi'lek and Mando, especially after they had such a history together, apparently. They kind of alluded to there being a sexual nature to their relationship, or rather an intimate relationship of some kind, but they never clarified that. So that's kind of up to the viewer to speculate. And I think they did that because it's a kid's show. It's technically, guys, I think Mandalorian is, I think it's PG. It might be PG-13 just because of how intense some of the combat is, but there's no cussing. I don't think there's any blood, except for maybe at the end when Mando takes off his helmet, but it's pretty darn clean. And I really appreciate that. There's not a lot of shows out there that are quality made for adults, but content friendly for families. And that is very rare nowadays. So, yeah, I like that. And I think you're right about that. So, I bet Bill Burr will shoot the Twi'lek in the back to save Mando. You know what? That'd actually be a super cool twist. If they do that, if they include that crew back into Mando, obviously there's going to be some bad blood on part of probably the Devaronian and the Twi'lek. Bill Burr, I think probably his character will have much more respect for Mando than he did previously, but he will not show it unless the life of Mando is being threatened for an irrational reason, because I don't think that Mando has any I don't think that Mayfeld, played by Bill Burr, has any particular affinity for the Twi'lek. I can't remember her name. I think it's Xi'an, if I'm not mistaken, like Xi'an or something like that with an X. But yes, I do think that is I think that'll be really interesting to see what they do there. And I hope that it does end up something like that, because I actually had a dream last night. No joke, guys. I had a dream last night that I ran into Bill Burr at a coffee shop, and I was like, Bill Burr, oh my gosh, oh Bill, hey dude, Bill. And he like looked over me, he's like, huh? Yeah. Oh hey, what's up, dude? Yeah, how's it going? And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, I freaking loved you in The Mandalorian. And he kind of laughed because he was also like shocked that someone was like approaching him about Mando, since he's not really a nerd himself. And it was based on, I think that whole dream sequence was concocted in my head of what I would talk to him about if I ever came in contact with him ever, like at a Comic-Con, if he ever goes, or, you know, some sort of Star Wars convention, or just happen to run into him in a major city or something like that. So yeah, but I did have that dream last night. It was really funny. And after I had that interaction with him, I knew in my head, I was like, yeah, I'm dreaming. This is not real. But it was fun while it lasted. So that was fun. And then Anthony Manzano sent me a message, but then retracted it. So I don't know what you said there. But thank you for sending that in. You sent another one, though, after that. So you said, Daniel, who did they end up revealing as Reys' parents? So let me just see. And you say, what's your predictions for the next few Star Wars movies? Is it going to be based off of the Old Republic? So I do think, and I know that they have been trying to get the Old Republic off of the ground. They tried to get the Game of Thrones guys involved with that, and there was tons of rumors from anonymous sources saying that they were working on Old Republic era content. It doesn't mean that it will be the Knights of the Old Republic video game made into a movie, because we know they don't want to recreate something that already happened. That's not what the films have been trying to do. They've been trying to tell stories that have not yet officially been told. We know that from 7, 8, and 9, even though they did kind of carbon copy the original trilogy. Totally, I admit that. I recognize that. And I agree with that. But they tried to do it with new characters. They did it in a new timeline. They did it, you know, they're trying to make stuff that has not yet happened, even if they don't do it well, like in 7, 8, and 9. They have done it well with Mando. Stuff we haven't seen, whether it's good or bad, they're trying to make it new. They could have used what was his name? Jason Solo. But they didn't. They used like Ben Solo. They changed the names, they changed the characters so that everything can be original and originally owned by Disney, and not classic Lucasfilm and pay royalties to George Lucas. So that's kind of the loophole workaround that they're trying to do. But I do believe that they canonized the Knights of the Old Republic twice. What they did was Disney had recognized the Knights of the Old Republic as the last previous era game to be canon in the new era. So I believe that functions and works as canon. But also, I talked about this yesterday. There's a visual dictionary for The Rise of Skywalker that came out. It's a book that gives you the names and descriptions of every item in Star Wars, character, person, place, and thing in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, so that you can learn more about the lore. And it's canon. It's written by Disney to be canon. Everything in there is accurate. And they called the platoons of the Final Order, Emperor Palpatine's Final Order crews, groups of troops that are 3,000 people deep, 5,000. One of them is called the third, I think it's called the third troop or something, the third platoon or something weird like that. Third squadron, something. But then they called it, what was it? Revan Squadron or Revan something. And they used the name Revan. And they did that because it has meaning to the Sith. It goes all the way back in Sith lore, and Sith know who it is, which is evident because those are the troops that belong to Darth Sidious, Emperor Palpatine. And he said that all of the Sith live in him. All of them. And he's naming his troops after a Sith, an ancient Sith from the Old Republic. And the Game of Thrones guys were brought in to write and create content for Star Wars. Now, again, they're fired. I'm going to say fired because unofficially, I guess officially they're not fired, but they had conflict interests that apparently excuse them from legal binding contracts, which is not a thing. So don't buy into that. If you hear the Game of Thrones guys left because they were too busy, that's hard BS. There's no way that's possible because they signed up for Star Wars before they had their contract with Netflix. And so you can't have a contract first, then make a second contract, and then say, sorry, first contract, we're going to be really busy with the second contract, so the first contract is going to have to be nullified. That's not how contracts work. A contract is a legally binding document. The only way out is to be forced out by the person holding the contract. So unfortunately, it's a load of hogwash that Lucasfilm is trying to make seem peaceable and easy to swallow for the public without causing a stir, like they did with the original directors of Solo and with the original director Colin Trevorrow for the sequel trilogy. They did a ton of stuff where they messed up big time. They hired someone on, had them write a story, started production, and then nope, sorry, you're out. We don't agree with what you're doing. So that's what they did with the Game of Thrones guys. Not a doubt in my mind. But it's too late now. They're gone. So they've been fired. That's the only way legally that would work. They've been released by their contract holders. They were fired. That's the only way they could continue with a new contract with Netflix. So yeah, that's it. But I do believe, yes, we will get Old Republic content. We'll get it soon. And I keep saying Black Saber. The Dark Saber confirms that everyone's mind is going towards the Old Republic, because that's an Old Republic weapon, and they referenced the wars between the Jedi and the Mandalore, and that is ancient history in Star Wars. And they're done with the Skywalker saga altogether. So all they're going to do is go sideways from the Skywalker saga, meaning they'll stay within the Clone Wars and original trilogy era, but go, instead of focus on the main guys that we've known so far, they're going to start telling stories on the side. They're going to tell Obi-Wan's story, Mando's story, Rebel's story. They're going to tell, hopefully, Quinlan Vos. Maybe they'll get into what's going on with the Hutts and the Pikes and the gangsters of the universe. Maybe they're going to get into more bounty hunter action. Maybe we're going to get to see what happened to Cad Bane. Maybe we're going to get to see those types of things. I would love to see that. But we also know that there is tons of Star Wars lore before the Skywalker trilogy, before Anakin Skywalker was force conceived, likely by Palpatine, in the womb of Shmi Skywalker, the virgin birth apparently, which I don't have a problem with. I think that's a fun lore. I'm okay with that part of it. I actually really love the prequels, guys. So if you have any questions for me about the prequels, just know it's coming from a place of love. I freaking love the prequels. No shame in my game. I think there's nothing wrong with 1, 2, and 3, except for the script was cringy at times, and I can get past that. I'm not hung up by that. Jar Jar, I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad at Jar Jar. I think Jar Jar was a really bold. That was an actually bold move. I think there was a lot of things that the Rise of Skywalker did that everyone's saying is a bold choice, or that Rian Johnson did that was a bold choice. I didn't see a ton of bold choices. I just saw a bunch of bad decisions. And there were some bad decisions in the script writing for the prequel trilogy, but the story itself was solid. And I thought the acting, not super bad. It's hard to work with a crappy script sometimes. And Anakin, unfortunately, in the Clone Wars and a couple of points in Revenge of the Sith were pretty cheesy. And I thought the kid, Jake Lloyd, that did Anakin in episode 1, he just got the rough of it because fans were not ready to see Darth Vader be a kid. That was not something people were ready to see. But I was ready. So, and that's because I was a kid when I saw it too. So, it's a little different. I appreciate if you don't like it. I really do. I just think that you're missing out on a lot of fun because the prequels are freaking great. Anyway, enough about that. So then let's read this. Daniel, who did they end up revealing as Reys parents? They revealed that Reys parents are people that we didn't get official names for, but basically the son of Palpatine and his wife are Reys parents, but they hid her away from Palpatine because he knew that she was Force sensitive and they knew he was going to come for her, so they hid her from them. So that's what they did. And they were killed for it. So, yep, that sucks. But it also means that, technically speaking, The Last Jedi was not wrong. They kind of are nobodies, but they're from a bloodline that is not nobody. You know what I mean? Like, the son of Palpatine, it doesn't really matter who he is, because all that matters really is that it's through the bloodline of Palpatine. So you have all that you really need to know, although it would be nice to have gotten a name or a flashback where you hear them say the name, you know, something like that. So, yeah. She's a Palpatine, and many of us called that. We saw that in her lightsaber fighting style. There's only been one person there's only one person that uses a two-handed lightsaber lunge with an angry face. And that's Palpatine. No one else does that. Not Yoda, not Anakin, not Obi-Wan, not Plo Koon, not Ahsoka Tano, nobody uses that fighting style except Palpatine and Rey. She used it like 7 times or something crazy in The Force Awakens. Just in that battle with Kylo alone, she used it 1 billion times. And so that's obviously hyperbole, not 1 billion times. But yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. And I thought the thing with her parentage was well done in both the Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker, because the Last Jedi was apparently slick enough that most people didn't catch what was going on. They thought she was nobody when that's not what they said at all. You just have to pay attention to specific words. And the context of the dark side cave. It's the dark side. It's not a well of infinite knowledge. It's the dark side. So you can't trust it. So anyway, that's what I thought there. Now, next up, Anthony Manzano says, what's your predictions for the next few Star Wars movies and based off the Old Republic? Yes, we talked about that. I do think we're going Old Republic, but that won't be the only thing, because episode 10 is coming out. I think it's 2022 or something like that. And episode 10 is going to be moving forward. Episodic films go forward. So we are going to get some films that are in the future, probably disconnected from Rey and all that, but it will be in the future. Maybe it's not going to be disconnected. Maybe she's going to be teaching a generation of Jedi. That would actually be not bad, because if you're going to have someone be OP, you might as well make them the mentor and give the torch to someone else to have struggles. So yeah, that's what I think. That being said, we will get the Old Republic. I have no doubt in my mind. It's just a matter of when and how. I hope that they do a TV show. It's all characters we don't really know. Maybe have Revan in the background, but we're focusing on other characters, because then you don't know who's going to live or die. You don't know who's going to stick around and who's really at risk. You could tell the story from like 8 different angles and perspectives. But then it ends up, like some of them don't make it. That would be really interesting and fun. I really like that idea. Plus, thousands of Sith, thousands of Jedi, temple against temple, invading one another, new planets and stuff like that. That would be super cool. Visit Korriban, the ancient Sith planet. Like you could visit like the Jedi temples on what's the name of that planet that's in the Knights of the Old Republic? I keep forgetting it, but it's the one you start out in the opening of the game, and it's the Jedi planet. Gosh, I wish I could remember that. Does it start with a T? I can't remember. Let me know if you guys remember that in the comments. I'll keep rolling. So it says, this is totally off topic, but I just want to say, so Javier Loera says, this is totally off topic, but I just want to say, I like the new look. Thanks. So that's my dad right there. So my mom is Lorna, my dad is Javi, and they are encouraging my new look. I kind of, just by means of laziness, I kind of just grew this out a little bit. I don't have a lot of facial hair. It's a lot I got in life, but it's okay. I'm really liking this hat and the jacket, which both I got for Christmas. Thanks to my wife for both this and this, and thanks to my mom for this shirt. I really like all of it. So basically a whole new wardrobe for Christmas, and I'm really digging it. So thank you very much, Mom and Dad, and my beautiful wife, Shannon. And it says, Daniel, and let's go. I'm going to copy this one and paste it over into my comments here because for some reason it's cutting off the right side of my screen. I'll try to get that fixed for next time. But it says, Daniel, are the villain philosophies from Star Wars based off of mom real life dictators? MOM real life dictators. You know, I'm going to try to interpret your question because I think there may have been a typo there. But it says, are the villain philosophies from Star Wars based off real life dictators? I don't know if they're based off specific people, but fun fact for you, George Lucas, when he was writing the character Darth Vader, based his appearance and his character's tone off of what was his name? Dr. Doom. And so Dr. Doom was a masked figure. You never really saw his face. He comes in, he's wicked powerful. He's also strong with magic, but he's also technologically advanced, infused, and he is basically the ruler of his nation, of his people. He was a direct inspiration for Darth Vader. So I don't know if a real life dictator like Adolf Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, someone like that, I don't know if they were the direct inspiration for Darth Vader or for Emperor Palpatine or whoever. But I do know that Darth Vader was based off of Dr. Doom from Marvel, who is in comic book culture and consensus, Dr. Doom is arguably the greatest villain of all time, and he's one of the oldest as well. So really, really fun side fact for you, but there was inspiration from Darth Vader, at least from Marvel Comics. So it's really cool. And cool how the history eventually carried on over because Marvel ended up producing the Star Wars comic books as well. So Star Wars and Marvel ended up partnering up again for that. Now, not that they were partnered before. I shouldn't have said again, but that kind of connection between the inspiration from Marvel to Star Wars came through again when Marvel decided to be the publisher for Star Wars comics. So it's kind of fun. Side fact for you. So I think that'll pretty much do it. There's so much more I want to say about Mandalorian, and I might organize my thoughts a little bit better, do a specific video for Mando, because right now I was trying to just get your questions answered, and from the previous video, which I didn't get to before, and your live questions, and now going into this, just there's so much to talk about. I want to talk more about the Rise of Skywalker in detail, but I want to do that after I've seen the film a second time. So I've got plenty of thoughts and opinions I've been formulating myself about the sequel trilogy as a whole. I'm rewatching it right now actively as well, so that I can get more context for what I remember from the Rise of Skywalker. Then I'll watch the Rise of Skywalker again. I would encourage everybody watch it a second time, because I've had 3 people now come up to me and say I really didn't like it the first time, but the second time kind of grew on me a little bit. And I think it's the opposite effect that the Last Jedi had, where you see the Last Jedi and it's kind of like, wow, that was a big spectacle. It looked great. Visuals were really awesome. But then the more you think about it, you're like, why in the world did they go to Canto Bight? What was that whole mission about if it was for nothing? And then what the heck was Rose Tico about that entire time? And then what's going on? Why are they saying that it's worth it to go on this side quest to free horses on a closed plane where they're going to be recaptured in 5 seconds, but they left the children as slaves? Is that worth it? No, it kind of seems like you failed miserably. It's frustrating, and it just, the more you think about The Last Jedi after you see it the first time, because I came out, I was like, oh my gosh, this was a really big spectacle. I can't wait to think more about it and talk about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I remembered what was going on in the film about Luke. Pretty much every male character in the film was undercut. Poe was undercut. Finn was undercut. Luke was undercut. Han was pretty much just forgotten about entirely. The only character, and Kylo was in a slump as well, but it was part of his character arc, because he was kind of up here and then he goes down here. The Last Jedi comes down, but then it comes back up with a hint of redemption. So it did kind of have a swing for Kylo. That was nice. But everybody else pretty much sucked unless you were a girl. Which is weird. It's like, why do you got to divide the genders like that? You know what I mean? But anyway, maybe that's just me. Let me know what I think. Let me know what you think about what I think in the comments. Maybe I'm crazy. So just tell me what you think about that. Anyway, I got to cut it off, guys. It's getting pretty late. One last question from Anthony Manzano. Do you think eventually Kevin Feige will become the head of Lucasfilm eventually? I'll say this. I don't think they're going to fire Kathleen Kennedy at all from a producer's role, because she's amazing as a producer for the most part, but she sucks when it comes to maintaining creative consistency and narrative. She allows people far too much freedom in creative storytelling. They need a Kevin Feige or a Jon Favreau to step in, or Dave Filoni, and just be the creative officer over Star Wars and just say, look, this checks out, this doesn't. We can't do that. That sucks. Don't do that. Or if a director starts to go off course, you either correct them or get them out. And that's what I think needs to happen. So that's what they did with Marvel, and it perfectly works. That's what they did with The Mandalorian. They had different directors for each episode, but it still works very, very well because the creative aspect of it, the writing aspect, was handled by one person with one vision, technically two, but it was the person was helping the other person with one vision. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau put their heads together and made one consistent story. Boom. This is what we're doing. No deviations. Let's go. And it works. So they need Kathleen Kennedy to do the producer's role and let someone else take exclusive creative control over the Star Wars franchise, and it'll survive. Because Rogue One was under Kathleen Kennedy, and it worked brilliantly. So was The Mandalorian, guys. The Mandalorian was under the control of Kathleen Kennedy, but she allowed her creative storyteller to be the sole creative storyteller. No one else could come in and screw with his vision. If J.J. Abrams had the story from start to finish, yes, it would have been a carbon copy of the original trilogy, but it would have been consistent. The Last Jedi would not have interrupted that. And that's why it feels like chaos. So, anyways, those are my thoughts. Yes, I do think that Kevin Feige will eventually have a much larger role than just creating his own Star Wars film, because that's what he's doing right now. He's planning and prepping for his own Star Wars film. And I think that's going to be really good. He's a huge nerd. He's like Jon Favreau in the way that he knows what fans want. He knows where to go and what not to do. And I think Kathleen Kennedy won't be able to push him around like she did some of these other guys, or allow them to push each other around. Kevin Feige is not someone you push around. And I have faith that he will step into a larger role there as well, probably. But not if he's still very busy with the Marvel content, which is what I hope he sticks with, because I love him in Marvel. And I think Jon Favreau could just as easily do what Kevin Feige's doing over there, but over here in Star Wars. So Jon Favreau, I would hope, would become that guy if it's not going to be too much time and he has to step away from Mando, because I hope they just keep Mando rolling. They're already working on season 2. We can expect it in November 2020. So that's, I'm sorry, yeah, 2020. That's this next year. So we have 11 months to wait for Mando season 2, and I could not be more happy. I'm so excited. Can't wait to see them probably revisit the Gamorrean homeworld, because that's something we've never seen in canon, and we've only really explored one time in Legends. So I'm really pumped. Anyway, got to cut it off. You guys are the bomb. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. If I can just close out with one quick thing. If you guys want to support my channel, here's how you can support me for free, guys. This costs you guys literally nothing. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you to everyone who's put your comments in the comment section here in the live. It means the world to me, and it helps me get found on YouTube so other people can find my channel and I can start to grow. I really appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. That's another huge one. And like videos that you do enjoy. If you enjoy it, make sure to stick around after the video and hit the like button so I know that you like this kind of content and I can make more of it for you guys. Really appreciate it, and share it with a nerd you love. That way they can talk about this with me as well. And I respect all opinions, guys. If you hated the Mandalorian, I want to know why. I want to have that conversation with you. I'm not going to beat you up for it. We can have that conversation because you're just as much a fan as I am. Your fandom is not more or less than mine. And it's just different. We appreciate things differently. And that's one of the beautiful things about fandom. So it's very personal. And I want to get to know you personally. That's part of it. So, and if you do want to support my channel financially and you want to get some cool merch for yourself, click the link in the description below this video. So if you scroll down, you click the description, It'll be the first link there you can click on, and it'll take you to my merch store so that you guys can check out some sick merch, because I want to show you guys that merch too. If you guys will give me just 1 second, let me go ahead and show you guys what's going on with the merch. I'll show you right now. Check this out. Let me see if I can just make myself a little bit smaller. That way you guys can see this. Woo! You see me floating over here? Check this out, guys. This is my merch store. I've got a bunch of these. The prequels are awesome. Changed my mind. The sequels are my favorite. The prequels are my favorite. The originals are my favorite. My sister's a legend. Brother's a legend. Girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, all that stuff. I've got characters. I've got actresses that play Catwoman. Here's my new t-shirt. I got the Star Wars is Dead, Changed My Mind, which is funny because unfortunately, Star Wars Lucasfilm took down my other one that said Star Wars is not dead, Changed My Mind, which is the one I preferred because I believe Star Wars is not dead, but they took that down and apparently agree that Star Wars is dead, which is funny. So anyways, I got all this merch here, but in the spirit of this, I'll click on this one for you. Not that I agree with this one, but I made it because I know some of you do. So you can check this out if you want. You can go here, change the color if you like. You can get a pink one on red. You can get yellow like the sunsets on Tatooine. You could change the shirt style, classic, premium, heavyweight, whatever, ringer if you like the rings around the cuffs. Change those colors up. Looks pretty fun, you know. I got a nice border around the letters. That way if you choose a dark colored shirt, you'll still be able to read it. You can do pretty much anything you guys like. There's hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, tanks, wall art, cell phone cases, magnets, laptop cases, pillows, tote bags, pins, tapestries, all kinds of fun stuff. So you guys can get whatever you want from me, including my own logos. And that will help support my channel financially. I get a cut of that profit, and I greatly appreciate you guys for helping me in this way, and get some swag for yourself. I've actually gotten a bunch of these myself, t-shirts. I've gotten the mugs as well. They're really, really good quality products. I really enjoy them, and I know that you will too. So just go ahead and check those out. Some classic stuff I do here. Funkoholic, if you guys are Funko addicts like I am for Funko Pops. I'm basically cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when it comes to Funko Pops and collectibles and stuff like that. So yeah, and I'll make some videos for those if you guys want to see those. Anyways, gigantic promotion, totally unnecessary, but I appreciate you guys tuning in anyway. It means the world to me. So yeah, if you will, just join me so that we can have some fun, have some conversations. Thank you again. Last thing to say, like, share, comment, subscribe. You guys rock, and stay tuned for more right here on The Stuff of Legend. Hey guys, D-Lo here. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And remember to share this video with all of your nerd friends. I know you got them, and you know who they are. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought about this discussion. Let me know what you would like to see me do a video on next. Subscribe to the channel because you're a legend, and we have that in common. Also be sure to turn on notifications to be notified right away when I upload my next video, or so that you can be alerted when I go live next time. That way you'll never miss a thing. Check out the other videos on the channel so that we can have a discussion on all your favorite movies and TV topics. Thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more right here on The Stuff of Legend.